My favorite thing was just the community, the small town community vibe.
My favorite thing about my hometown is the community feeling of it.
I definitely get taken back to my origins, my house, that kitchen, those moments.
It's a military city, so it's a small town in a sense where, it's not that many people. However, people are coming and going.
It's a small town. Like if you ask anybody from there.
When I was a young child, an infant, I was born in Dallas, but I lived in DeSoto. So when I first started school, I went to school in DeSoto, which is a small suburb right on the outskirts of Dallas.
We always still kind of had that tie, that connection, whether you were here for 3 years, whether you've been here for 20, it's just that small town community, like, embedded into you.
Especially with our love for football, like that is what primarily brings our city together. More than 75% of that town is consisted of my family members. I'm still learning new ones till today. So I will definitely say that is another thing that I like, because I know that I can always, no matter where I'm at in the city, there's somewhere I can go or someone who I can reach out to that I feel deeply connected to.
After I was 7, I moved to the house that my mom grew up in. And that was in Oak Cliff. It was in Woodtown off of Wheatland. And so that was a little different, it was a different socioeconomic class. The people in Oak Cliff live a life of relative poverty compared to the people in DeSoto. So yeah, I really do. I grew up in that school system and making friends in that school system, but when I would go home, I wouldn't be in that. I would be in Oak Cliff.
I went to Houston for college, and I always now that I left Houston and I'm now back in Schertz, I still feel that tie back to Houston, or I still feel that tie back to, the school that I taught at, or U of H, where I went to my undergrad, or University of St. Thomas, where I went to my first master's. Like, I've always just felt that sense of community in kind of every place that I've lived. Oh, my oldest memory. Okay, so we built the house that we have when I was 10, and I remember we had a rental house in Converse, and we would come look and watch the house basically being built every week, or every weekend we would come. And so when the slab was being laid, we were so excited. And then once the 2x4s were up, we got to see what the skeleton of the house was look like. So we really got to see the whole process of how houses get built. And that was really that's probably my first memory here of just something that we had that was ours, that we were watching the process of how it all comes together. And then finally, when it was done, we got to move into the house that we got to watch being built, which was really exciting. My favorite thing about Houston, the food. I mean, I could not live far away just because I would miss the food so much.
Specifically, my school, West Orange Star, we are known for football in the area. That is one thing that we've been known for decades back.
I went to school in DeSoto, and we had an amazing football program my entire time that I'm still all right. But when I was there, our football program was spectacular, and we fought a good fight every season to get to playoffs.
Every Friday night, whether it was a home game or whether it was a away game, I mean, it was just that moment where you knew that you was going to see everybody. It was like our Friday night football games was like a Beyonce concert. It was just like, you're going to see everybody. Yeah, everybody's going to come out. They're going to bring everybody out. Even how most away games, people there'll be some travelers that go. We were loading up on buses. I'm talking about we were there. We were there supporting, and it was I also felt different too, because when my freshman year, when I was actually the mascot of the high school football team, I was just I was never a player, but I'm I feel that momentum now.
My senior year, it was an amazing season, if I'm not mistaken, and we were undefeated. And so that last game, I think about that game in particular because I usually we had this. I was athletic trainer, and so I was on the sideline oftentimes, and we had this thing about not turning around because we had a job to do. We couldn't be caught up in all the rah 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 of the crowd. But that game, the night that we won, once the clock was 0-0-0, because I couldn't. We were up, but I just knew it was too many. It was trauma. We had been there before where we thought we were going to win and we lost, but this time we thought we were going to win and we didn't. And when the clock was like, oh, like the game was over, I turned around and I saw just the faces of my community collectively supporting a common goal.
Coming from Schertz, even though it was, a small town, there was still kind of the same type of people. And so then when I moved to Houston, just the idea of, oh my gosh, like, you were born in Egypt. Like, tell me about that. Like, I was born down the street from, where I'm going to school. So tell me, my roommate in college was from Latvia. She played basketball. I had another roommate in college who was from Brazil. And so just the culture and just the fact that, we may come from so many different places, but yet we're still wanting the same thing out of life. My third grade teacher, I lived in Houston at the time, and she really was kind of like the pivotal moment in me being able to learn to read. Reading was a big struggle for me growing up, and it was third grade when she kind of like took the initiative and was like, you know what, let's see if we can get some help. And that was like the turning point of, this is, I can be successful in the classroom and not just think that, I will never be able to read this book just like my peers.
Some hardships that I probably faced was that, and I probably would just say me, but with coming from a small town and it being limited, a lot of people could end up coming off as jealous or envious of you. And me personally, I don't know, I never really was jealous or envied anyone specifically because I feel like I didn't have to, like, no one had anything that I wanted. And I'm probably sure I don't want anything that y'all, have anything that y'all want. But there was like a lot of jealousy and a lot of just small talk that went on, and just like sometimes belittling, and just, people were very kind of like judgmental.
One of the things that really opened my eyes is when I would go outside and I'd play with my friends. And they would make comments about my clothes and how I had new clothes every time I went outside, or clean clothes every time I went outside. And compared to my experience in school, where I would be insecure about what I was wearing or how my shoes looked, because the kids that I went to school with, they wore the nicest shoes and had, their clothes were always clean, their hair was always done, well kept, and it's just certain things that I didn't have the luxury to do, nor did anybody on my block, but let the people on my block tell it. I'm rich the way they see it. They see me driving the cars that we had the luxury to drive, and they assume something about me that was very different from the people who were making assumptions about me in school.
So in teaching, I always I enjoy teaching the kids that were struggling, because I felt like they needed a cheerleader. They needed somebody to, root for them, vouch for them. And I had told myself when I got my teaching degree, I was like, I'm going to be that person for the struggling reader, the struggling learner, the kid who I'm going to be that. They may not think that they can do it, but I'm going to think that they can do it. So that way they have that motivation, or they realize I will never be that teacher that a kid thinks that doesn't care about them.
No matter how good you do, or no matter what you may or may not have, somebody will always have something to be jealous of, about, or, hate about you, or anything like that. And how that's helped me as an adult is that, I am no better than the next person, and the next person is no better than me. We all have things that we're good at, things that we need to work on, things that's just simply not for us. And kind of me growing up and just like kind of always telling myself that, what is for me is going to be for me, then that's the only thing I can hold on to.
Prayer and faith were the tenets of or the pillars of our household. when we were, struggling to make the ends meet, or even just in my little trivial middle school woes, I go to my mom, and her advice was always, if it's not gonna matter in 2 weeks, it doesn't matter. We have to have faith. We have to know that we have everything that we need. You have love. You're loved, and that was something that would, I was grounded in.
And Christmas Day, we can't come downstairs until the sun comes up. It's always been the rule.
Growing up, when we stayed with my grandmother, one of the things that we all chipped in, but it was mostly me. One of the things that I mostly did was help my grandmother put up the Christmas tree.
When we get together for the holidays, it's never, ever, and I should probably knock on something, but it has never been like drama. It's always good times and laughter.
It's really instilled an idea of like the importance of family, the importance of being together and making that time for each other.
When the clock strikes 12 after October 31st, that is when my Christmas spirit comes out. People be like, oh, you gotta wait until, after Thanksgiving. No.
The holidays are my favorite time of year because when I think about, because what I learned about wealth as a child and income as a child, it made me, I have no real, I don't really value monetary things. The wealth that I recognize in my household is the joy that we found in loving each other despite not having very much.